Good afternoon. My name is Andrade Encinas, and I'm going to present the learning outcome number 3. Globalization. What is globalization? It's the increasing interaction of people through the growth of the international flow of money, ideas, and culture. Globalization is primarily an economic process of integration which has social and cultural aspects as well. It involves goods and services and the economic resources of capital, technology, and data. Which are the pros of globalization? Well, some of them is the reduce of barriers such as tariffs, value-added taxes, subsidies, and other barriers between nations. Uh, but anyway, this is not totally true because there are still many barriers of free trade. Global economic growth creates jobs, makes companies more competitive, and lower prices for consumers. Competition between countries is supposed to drive prices down. It also provides poor countries through infusions of foreign capital and technology with a chance to develop economically and by spreading prosperity, creates the conditions in which democracy and respect for human rights may flourish. There is now a worldwide market for companies and consumers who have access to products of different countries. There is cultural intermingling and each country is learning more about other cultures. There is more influx of information between two countries which do not have anything in common between them. Since we share financial interests, corporations and governments are trying to sort out ecological problems for each other. Sharing technology with developing nations will help them progress. The concept of globalization, well, is a complaint about globalization is that it has made the rich richer while making the non-rich poorer. Globalization is supposed to be about free trade where all barriers are eliminated, but how there are still many barriers. Workers in developed countries like USA face pay cut demands for employers who threaten to export jobs. Large multinational corporations have the ability to exploit tax havens in other countries to avoid paying taxes. Multinational corporations are accused of social injustice, unfair work, and unfair working conditions. Lack of concern for environment, mismanagement of natural resources, and ecological damage. World Trade Organization. What is the World Trade Organization? It's a global membership group that promotes and manages free trade. The World Trade Organization helps throughout the world flow smoothly through trade agreements. The first it administers existing multilateral trade agreements. Every member receives more favored nation trading status. That means they automatically receive lower tariffs for exports. Second, it settles trade disputes. Most conflicts occur when one member accuses another of dumping. That's when it exports goods at a lower price than it costs to produce it. The World Trade Organization staff investigates and if a violation has occurred, they will levy sanctions. And it manages ongoing negotiations for new trade agreements. And their objectives are to improve the standard of living people in member countries, to ensure full employment and broad increase in effective demand, to enlarge production and trade of goods, and to increase the trade of services. The history of the World Trade Organization origins begins with the trade negotiations after World War II. In 1948, the General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade focused on reducing tariffs, anti-dumping, and non-tariff measures. From 1986 to 1994, the required round of negotiations led to the formal creation of World Trade Organization, and it has 164 members since the 29th of July of 2016. And the importance of this, I think it is that it helps trade throughout the world flow smoothly through its trade agreements. It provides its members with a fair method to resolve trade disputes. They don't have to resort to violence or war. It negotiates improved trade arrangements among its members. Membership also lowers the costs of doing business by removing volatility. These general benefits extend to all members. The digital revolution. The digital revolution refers to the advancement of technology from along electronic and mechanical devices to the digital technology available today. The era started during the 1980s and is ongoing. The digital revolution also marks the beginning of the information era. Some pros of this is the better and easier communication, exposure to more information, increased productivity and performance of businesses. And the cons is the information overload, over dependence on technology, privacy and copyright issues, vulnerable information, and internet fraud. How technology affects or benefits terrorism? Well, first of all, terrorism is the use of intentionally indiscriminate violence as a means to create terror or fear, to achieve a political, religious, or ideological aim. It is used in this regard primarily to refer to violence against peacetime targets or in war against non-combatants. The term terrorist and terrorism originated during the French Revolution of the late 18th century, but gained mainstream popularity during the USA presidency of Ronald Reagan after the 1983 Beirut barracks bombings, and again after the attacks on New York City and Washington, D.C. in September of 2001. The cyberspace is an environment without boundaries and privileged places, where terrorists find resources, make propaganda activities, and from which it is possible to launch attacks against enemies everywhere in the world. Social media is an essential element of modern terrorism. These powerful platforms allow terrorists to communicate, to make propaganda, and recruit sympathizers. The internet, and generally speaking, technology could be exploited by terrorist organizations for several purposes, including propaganda, psychological warfare, recruitment and mobilization, fundraising, data mining, information gathering, secure communication, cyber attacks, software distribution, buying false documents, and training. Thank you.